inaugural Symposium of Family Business and Wealth Management, the Forum of Indian Business and Professional Council, Dubai. This is in adherence to the initiatives of Dubai Chambers and its Center of Family Businesses to enhance the awareness and also being together with the several specialists, multi-services providers in the formation of family offices to interactively introduce the best practices. For example, today we are blessed to have Mr. Amin from PwC, Mr. Abid Rashid from DCCI, who are the catalyst indeed and in this segment and have joined us today. A warm welcome to you and a warm welcome to all of you over here. To introduce the forum and its objectives, may I request Mr. Suresh Kumar for briefly describing the thoughts and the initiatives of IBPC Dubai. Mr. Suresh Kumar has the distinction of serving the banking and financial sector in several leadership, transformational and governance roles both in UAE as well as in India. During his professional journey of over 4 decades, he has served in the Emirates NBT Group and in governance role of Federal Bank Limited, IDBI Federal Life Insurance Company Limited, and the Fed Bank Financial Services Limited, in multiple roles of board of Aster DM Healthcare, ICICI Prudential Limited, among so many others in India as well as in UAE. Mr. Kumar is recognized as a father of funds and capital markets in the GCC for his pioneering innovations and institutions building the endeavors. He was also awarded the Hind Ratan Award and the annual award for the Indian Economic Society in 2014. So I request our Chairman Emeritus, Mr. Suresh Kumar, to come on podium and address us.
Thank you, Sahitya. I didn't think I would need an introduction to this audience, but nevertheless, I think you've been very generous in your words. So, distinguished guests, dear members, and their better halves, if I may say so, hopefully. Thank you all for attending this inaugural forum. It's the launch event of IBPC's Forum for Family Businesses and Wealth Management. And the concept that originally started off as focusing on family offices took a new shape and size, not just now, but I think going back to a few years back. In fact, Government of Dubai was a pioneer in this respect, and some of the Government of Dubai entities, particularly the DIFC, the DWTC, etc., all focused on this as one of the key drivers of the economy. If you look at the UAE economy, as indeed many other economies around the world, family businesses constitute a very significant component of the entire business sector, particularly the private business sector, private sector. And in the UAE, it's almost 90%, by some reckoning. And within the Indian business community, that statistic is mirrored in the sense that almost 85–90% of Indian businesses, large and small, across industries, across professions, across retail sectors, are family owned. So the subject therefore is very, very important, and it has gained traction in the last few decades, principally in a way, as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, or adversity is the mother of invention in a sense. So there have been in the past, as you may well know, many of us here, if you go back, some of you may not remember, but way back 30, 40 years back, there were family issues. There were succession issues on untimely demise of the patriarch or the founder of the businesses. And that had an adverse impact right through among businesses. And what it required was to create an ecosystem and a cluster, and that's what the government of Dubai took the initiative. Based on those incidents, based on those experiences, which required intervention by the sheikhs, by the institutions that were part of the stakeholders of the company or the businesses, to establish this in a very formal manner, whereby there is good governance, there is good risk management within, because as you grow the businesses, there are risks, new emerging risks appearing both within and without, both within the businesses themselves, within the families. And how do you proactively address them rather than waiting for a sad event to happen or a disturbing event to happen? That is what the entire concept of family office is all about. And then there is significant wealth, and some of these are multi-families owned businesses, and therefore several generational challenges also come into the picture. So I think it's to address this holistically that this framework was created, and in the case of Dubai, the DIFC created a framework, and the government of Dubai encouraged that very strongly, and a number of support system service providers also, the whole ecosystem developed very, very strongly. And it was just right that in the year 2022, I think towards the end of 2022, there was a cabinet decision and an actual family business law was passed as well by the federal government. And so now it is really a federal initiative with a family business registry maintained by the Federal Ministry of Economy as well. So all family businesses, family-owned businesses can voluntarily opt to register their businesses there with the right framework in terms of governance code, governance mandates, issues in terms of addressing in a proactive, futuristic manner, creating a framework that not only serves one generation but transcends over to several generations, etc. So I think it is in this context that IBPC felt it necessary. And I must thank Maha and Adib for being with us here today. Dubai Chamber has always been supportive, and we synergistically also support Dubai Chamber's initiatives, and I think they've taken the lead. Center of Excellence, Center for Family Businesses is actually a center of excellence in this respect. Best practices, keeping up with the cutting edge developments that are happening around the globe, etc. And I'm sure Adib will speak more about it as the evening progresses. What I would also like to do is follow up Adib's comments, and Mr. Amin Nasser, he's a veteran. I've known him for 35 years now, I think more perhaps, Amin. And he initiated and pioneered the concept of family office in this part of the world through his days in PwC. So I hope he will illustrate his on a no-names basis with some case studies, if not as part of the speech, as part of the panel discussion subsequently. We're also thankful to Mr. Mohan Balrani, about whom I will speak later, and Mr. Abdullah Ajmal, who I think is expected any moment. So with these initial words, thank you all very much. I would also like to introduce Sam Narayanan. He is going to be the convener of this forum. Sam, thank you. Thank you for being here. And over to you, Sahitya.
Thank you so much, sir, for summarizing the objectives and the way forward. The two words, if I say, I think that covers, because the journey is started. Conventionally, if we look, the India and the Indian subcontinents, I think the family business is a culture of civilization. Even the most robust system of income tax act in India, they recognize the Hindu Undivided Family HUF as an entity, and there are the specific provisions for the taxing that entity in its own. But yeah, as you announced, Abdullah Ajmal has just come. Please. So taking the forum forward, may I request Ms. Maha Al-Gargabi to come on the stage, and I request Mr. Suresh ji to give her a welcome book. Ravi, may you please help? The initiatives of Dubai Chambers, I request Your Excellency to come on podium and say a few words.
Mr. Suresh Kumar, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I think, Mr. Suresh has covered the objectives of this session today. And, as Dubai Chambers, as you've outlined, we've also established the Dubai Center for Family Business. My colleague here, Adib Rashid, also leads on that. He's the executive director that leads that center. But, I think if I talk about the relationship between the UAE, Dubai, and India, Indian families have been, a dynamic driver and a major contributor to Dubai's economy from the days of, the late father, His Highness Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum, and I think, whether it's in retail, whether it's in construction, whether it's in some of these conventional sectors, but also today with emerging sectors like digital, like tech, and whatnot. I think, there's a lot of synergies. We, as Dubai government, value the relationship we have with Indian family businesses. We think not only are they contributors and drivers to our economy, but they're very much part of the DNA and part of the ecosystem of, what makes Dubai, the economy and the city that it is today. And I think there's a lot of similarities when we talk about, Arab family businesses, but also Indian family businesses. I think there's a lot of I would say similarities between both of our cultures in terms of family values and whatnot, which sometimes make the challenges also quite similar. So eager to hear what my colleagues have to say in the panel. And as Dubai Chambers, I just want to extend our thanks for IBPC for conducting such a session, and we remain supportive of all of your initiatives and finding ways to unlock new opportunities between the Indian Business Council and the Emirate of Dubai. Thank you for having me today.
So nice of Ms. Maha. Really incredible with the short notice you have arrived. I know that from your voice note when we were doing some conversation, came to know you were in the valleys and the mountains and the network was not very clear. So thank you very much coming back on the podium. And yes, connecting the ties that, as I was mentioning, the civilization, the cultural values of the family business. Yes, there are the challenges. And with Middle East, if we refer, the data research says that 80% Middle East businesses are family owned or family controlled. But simultaneously, the challenge is it's difficult to sustain even in second generation or maximum to third generation. Here today, we have the expert, Mr. Adib, who is Executive Director of Dubai Center for Family Business, that works under the umbrella of Dubai Chambers, focused on empowering the multi-generational family enterprises with over 2 decades of experience in specialized advisory services for diversified business. Adib leads a team of experts to deliver innovative solutions and services to Dubai-based family businesses, including awareness building to training and development of family members advocating for family businesses. He is a fellow of the Family Firm Institute of USA and holds multiple certifications in family business and wealth advisory. He oversees the creation of cutting-edge educational programs, workshops, and seminars. That's how he is today here. So may I request Mr. Adib to come on podium and give his remarks.
It's a pleasure to be with you today. I think it's a great opportunity to share with you what the Dubai Chamber and Dubai Center for Family Business is all about, and how we can help family businesses operating in Dubai to prosper and continue and sustain. So let me first start by introducing the Family Business Center. Dubai Center for Family Business was created last year by a decree from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, and we officially launched the center in May 2023. And the main objectives of the center is first of all to create awareness about the importance of governance, importance of structures, and developing clear succession plans and continuity plans for family businesses. We also have a clear objective to develop the next generation family business leaders to be able to take their roles in the future as the future leaders of their businesses. And most importantly, listen from the family businesses about the challenges they're facing and advocate for their interest in the community, as well as showcase their contribution to the economy and help them continue and sustain and prosper. So in order to do that, we initially tried to understand what are some of these challenges, and we identified 6 main challenges that family businesses in Dubai face. It's actually not just Dubai, maybe around the region as a whole. And we found that family governance was a key issue that most families in the region face. Family governance being, developing a clear structure of how to take decisions collectively as a family, and what is the relationship between the family and the business, and so on. And the second challenge facing family businesses also is this generational dynamics and the difference in views between the different generations, the older generation and the younger generation, and how to align this vision to make sure that everybody's working towards a unified vision and a clear vision for the future. The other thing that families face, or the most important challenge that families face, is the succession planning, whether in ownership or in management. So how to ensure there is a smooth transition between the first generation, second generation, and there is a clarity on how things are going to be run when they are passed away or passed over to the next generation, whether from a leadership perspective and managing the business, or ownership perspective and owning the assets, basically. The other thing that we found also is that there is a lack of qualified family business advisors in the region as a whole. So, yeah, I mean, of course, is the godfather of family business advisor in the region. Yeah, you can count them on one hand, basically, the people who are really specialized on this topic. So he said maybe what we try to do is help advisors who work with family businesses upskill their knowledge about the challenges facing family businesses. And lastly is basically to highlight the importance of family businesses to the economy, highlight their contribution, and understand the challenges they face and try to work around them and find ways to ease their life, basically. So in order to achieve our objective and tackle some of these challenges, we initiated several initiatives. And the first initiative that we initiated was focused mainly on awareness building. So we started a series of events where we invite international speakers, international families, and regional and local families to share their experience, share their knowledge and what they've been through. Sorry. So families can learn from them and understand their experience, basically. We also invite international speakers from academics, from experts in family business, to run some workshops around specific topics, whether family office, succession, conflict management, so on. So families can experience these subjects and try to see how they can roll it out in their own family. What we did also is partnered with several international institutions like the Family Firm Institute, Family Enterprise Foundation, to provide some of the international expertise and materials and studies for the community in Dubai. So now we have around 2,000 materials on our website, whether case studies, research papers, interviews with family members, interviews with experts, podcasts around family business and different topics. So families who are interested to learn more about the subject and upskill their knowledge can access from our website. What we also did is we tried to develop some small toolkits to help families start their journey of transformation, transition, and so on. So every family is at a different level of maturity. So some people have started the governance process, some are thinking about it, some don't know about it and what they need to do. So I said, okay, we'll develop these small toolkits to help them understand and focus on the topics that they want to read about and learn about. So we launched several toolkits or published several toolkits around family governance, around family office, conflict management, how to run a family meeting. And we also published like a sample articles of association. So as you know, many of the family businesses that were set up in Dubai around the 70s and the 60s, and in many cases the articles have still been or haven't been changed since their setup, basically. So what we said, maybe families can look at these sample and try to upgrade their articles of association to meet the changes and the challenges that will face their families in the future. What we also published is a tool, we call it the governance assessment tool. It's basically an online tool where the family can go online, answer some questions, and based on these answers, they will get a report to tell them where do they stand in terms of their maturity when it comes to governance, succession, conflict management, all the topics related to the family business. And it would give them also a comparison between where do they stand in comparison to their peer group, as well as like an action items of how to bridge the gap, basically, and improve their situation going forward. This tool also is online on our website. Our second objective, of course, is the focus on training and education for family members. So what we try to do is also to categorize the next generation family members into different categories. The first category being the people who are being groomed to be the future leaders, those who have some significant experience within the family business, and they will try to upgrade their skills as not just as a business leader, but also as a family business leader. So how to make sure that they understand how to deal with their siblings, how to manage conflict, how to communicate effectively with them to ensure that there is no disagreements between the family members. So we launched this program in collaboration with Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Leadership Development, and with last year we did it with Northwestern University. This year is with IMD. And so far we have 62 family members enrolled in this program. The second program is a little bit targeted more towards the younger family members, so those who are starting their careers, whether in the family business or outside the family business. What we try to do is to raise their awareness about their role in the family business, how to be a responsible owner, what does it mean to be a family member in a family that owns joint assets, how do we take decisions collectively. In many cases, some family members get put in a position where they have to sit in a on a board seat without having the right experience. So we said maybe they need to be educated on how to be an effective board member. Some of the young family members also sometimes come back with new ideas. They want to set up a new business. So we said, okay, let's train them to be an entrepreneur. So how to develop the business plan, how to pitch the new idea to their family or even investors and so on. And most importantly, how to be an effective communicator and avoid conflict within the family business, basically. So this program is run entirely in Dubai with the contribution of one of our partners. And it's open, actually next week we have the final program for this year. So far we ran 5 cohorts, and we trained around 120 family members through this program. We have also worked with the Family Friends Institute to run this specialized certification program, which is a program that they have run for the past 15 years. And we did an MOU with them to roll out this program throughout the Middle East on a subsidized basis, basically. So it's like discounted by 30%. And this program basically provides the participants with the tools to help their clients, and even sometimes family members take this program to understand how to deal with family members and how to deal with family members who are part of a family business. So it's 2 certificates, one for family wealth advisory and one for family business advisory. And the difference is the family business focuses on governance, the family wealth focuses on wealth management. So again, so far we have, I think, around 32 family business advisors enrolled in this program throughout the past year, basically. In a nutshell, this is what we've been doing over the past few months. Going forward, I think we'll continue to do that, and we'll also start rolling out some advisory services, not to compete, of course, with Amin, but basically to basically to help families understand where they are. So if a family wants to assess where do they stand in terms of the maturity, we can help them, understand where are the gaps and how to start the process, and then they can take it forward with their own advisor, basically. So that's it. Thank you very much for having me today, and thank you very much, Mr. Kumar, for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm sure we'll continue to discuss further about family businesses and how we can help throughout the evening. Thank you very much.
I was just asking, your name is Adib, right? Because some confusion. Because I'm equating the name, he's having the same name what I have. My name, probably all of you might be knowing it, is Sahitya. Sahitya means in English literature. Adib in Urdu we say is literature. So thank you, Adib, to equate, and I'm sure that in your big presentation next time, inshallah, the IBPC, this initiative, this inaugural function, what you are part, what you have been the first keynote speaker of, that will be inshallah part of this presentation. Because I still recollect a few months, couple of months back, when Mr. Suresh Kumar took that initiative and had the discussion at Chambers, few of our colleagues went there, and Ms. Maha asked that, can you share the list of the family businesses? So I asked, how many numbers do you want? And they said, okay, you can give us 30 names. And then it is challenging. If you are, I told that if you are asking thousands, yes, it is easy. If you ask hundreds, still bit we can. But if you are asking 30, the criteria is very difficult, and then we started struggling within ourselves and discussing what should be the criteria, how we should generate that list. But alhamdulillah, today the inauguration is going to happen. So it is a time of Amin. And I want to invite Mr. Amin, who is Senior Advisor to PwC Middle East for the Family Business Platform. So So Mr. Amin has spent the majority of his time with PwC. Almost 20 years he has been partner of PwC. He is a fellow member ACCA, England and Wales. He is member of Family Firm Institute USA. He is member of the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners UK. Amin played an integral role in establishing PwC's dedicated Middle East family business advisory practice, and still today in his capacity as senior advisory to PwC. Serving as a trusted advisor to the business, particularly as a mentor, mediator, facilitator, educator, and the coach. He is a leading reference in the area of family governance across the Gulf and wider to the MENA region. So we welcome Mr. Amin. Please come on podium and address your remarks.
Thank you, Suresh Kumar, for inviting me to this really amazing conference and the Indian Business and Professional Council. And thank you all for making the time to come this evening, because I mean, it's Friday evening. I'm sure you've got a lot of other things to do, and so thank you for spending some time with us, and I hope you'll enjoy the sessions. So in terms of the agenda, I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go on talking for forever, so I'll try and make it as succinct as possible. I'm going to talk about just a helicopter view of the family landscape in the GCC, just so that you have a good idea. I mean, you already know about it, but I'll just kind of put some insights into it. And then quite importantly, some of the challenges that families in the GCC face. Now, families are the same, whether it's in Brazil, whether it's in India, whether it's wherever, but there are some challenges that are unique to the GCC or to the Middle East, and I'd like to share those with you. And then, just to kind of go through some of the core issues that causes conflicts in family businesses, so that you're aware of it, and I'm sure you're aware of most of them, but we'll just go through that very quickly. And sadly, what is the impact on conflicts? And we've seen a number of families getting extremely stressed due to conflicts, intergenerational conflicts, etc. And then, Adib and Suresh has covered this a bit, but just to kind of give you a feel for what the governments in the region are doing about this, because the governments, to be honest with you, are very concerned with the sustainability of family businesses, and I'll just give you a kind of a summary as to what is it that they're doing around this area. Okay? Good? Okay. And please interrupt me if you want to ask anything, any questions. Okay, so look, I'm not going to spend too much on this, but you know how critical family businesses are in the GCC. So a lot of percentages have been quoted earlier on. 80% of the non-oil GDP is actually contributed by family businesses, which is quite a high percentage of. So family businesses are the backbone of the economy. And if you think about it, in the GCC, families are only about 60 to 70 years old. And families are still in the second generation, going to the third generation. So we're not talking about very old families compared to the East or the Western. And because we're only talking about second to third generation, this has become very, very crucial, because a lot of the issues happen when families transition from the second to the third, or from the third to the fourth, because of cousin consortiums. And we'll talk more about that later. But, one of the things that has been a breath of fresh air, and we're doing a lot of work with the Chamber, is talking to the next generation family members, the future leaders of the family businesses. And it's actually a breath of fresh air, because these young generation family members have come in highly educated, but more importantly, they realize the importance of good structures, the importance of having processes, and less about, charismatic founders who say, "Trust me, everything will be okay." Now, the young generation are very different. They want to see things happen. Now, unfortunately, and you know this, in the last, I'd say 10 years or so, there's been an increase and uptick in the level of conflicts in families throughout the region. Yeah, and to an extent, we're protected in the region because of the respect for the older generation. So a lot of these conflicts happen, and they're put under the carpet. They're swept under the carpet because you don't want to upset the founder or your uncle, etc. But then what happens when these founders pass away or are incapacitated? Then what happens is all these issues that have been swept under the carpet come out, they raise their ugly heads, and huge chaos and conflicts between family members. And we've seen this recently. I don't have to mention names, but you know very well the families that I'm talking about. And this is happening. So the other point that I want to make is that in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of the families are going to go through generational change. Now, if you talk to bankers, I'm sure Suresh Kumar will agree to this, but trillions of dollars will change hands from one generation to the next. So why should we be worried? It's quite worrying because if that generational change is not handled properly, you will see fragmentation of family businesses, which will have catastrophic impact on the economy, on the employment, etc. Because a lot of these families will fragment into much smaller units and less powerful units, and therefore generational change is a huge issue, and we'll talk more about that later. The other thing I want to mention, and I'll move quickly on, is that, look, family businesses is a great model, by the way. It's a very successful model. If you compare, profitability, they take a long-term view, they're more risk-averse. There's a lot of things going on for family businesses. However, unfortunately, a very small percentage survive beyond the 4th generation. And we'll talk more about that later on, because of the challenges around the emotional aspect of being a family business. Okay? I'll move on. So, I'll just go through very quickly on these challenges because some of these points will be covered in another slide where I talk about conflicts. But one of the points that I want to mention here is that family businesses, I always say to people that family businesses face dual challenges. The first challenge that they face is a business challenge. So, we went through COVID, inflation, interest rates, wars in Ukraine, regional wars now with Hamas and Israel, unfortunately. So there's a lot of business stress as a result of this, supply chain issues and all of those kind of things. As if that's not enough, families also have to deal with intergenerational conflicts and intergenerational change. And that's quite stressful for these families. So the challenges that families face are actually quite great. I always say to people that no matter how profitable a family business is, it can be derailed if the family are not harmonious or are not in alignment. And therefore, it's quite difficult. Right. So, alignment and some of these challenges are one of the most important things that I've seen. And I'll tell you a bit of a story about this in the later slide, is around alignment of the shareholders. And when I talk about alignment, I'm talking about alignment on business issues and alignment on family issues. When there's a misalignment in the vision of the family shareholders, it then becomes very difficult for them to move ahead, right? So families need to spend a lot of time in aligning the vision for the future. And although that's hard work, but if family members are aligned, I'm telling you the sky's the limit, because they can just take the business, and we've seen this in other families who who are aligned. They just propel. The other challenge, obviously, is the transition from one generation to the next, and we'll talk more about that. Governance and succession planning, unfortunately, in the GCC, this has not been top priority for family businesses. Family businesses have kind of concentrated a bit more on making money and profits and all of that kind of thing, and little attention has been given to governance and succession. And now, things are kind of turning around with government intervention, and I'll talk more about that later. Choosing the future leaders, very, very important. Statistics would indicate that 80% of the family business failures around the world are around the issue of leadership. And leadership among future family members is a huge concern, and this is why the Chamber is spending a lot of time and money in terms of mentoring and training the next generation around leadership capabilities and things like that, how to be a good board director, how to be a good chairman, things like that. Agreeing terms of exits and valuation. A lot of families that I've come across still do not have formal processes for what happens if somebody wants to leave the business. How is that process going to take place? How are the shares going to be valued? So exits and valuations are quite important, and I'll talk more about that as I move on. Dividend distribution and reinvestment of profit. That's an important area as well, which I will cover. Family employment issues. Family employment causes a lot of issues with family businesses, mainly because of issues like, why has my son not been promoted to CEO, and why has your son been promoted? How come your son is paid more than my son? How can you evaluate performance? Now, we've talked to many families around family employment, and a number of families have told us that, look, we're beginning to reduce the number of family members that work in the business. Why? Because it gives us less flexibility to hire and fire. So if a family member is doing well, great. He can be promoted and he can be getting bonuses and everything. But if he's not doing well, what are you going to do? You can't, it's not very easy to fire a family member, because you're going to have Third World War with your sister, because her son is the best thing since sliced bread as far as she's concerned, right? So, family employment is becoming more of an issue, and I'll share with you, if we've got time, some of the models that families adopt. It's quite interesting. Look, the growth, the basis of growth these days is around innovation and tech. Unfortunately, again, in the GCC, less attention was given to innovation and talent and technology, and now family businesses are playing catch up, and trying to kind of resolve these issues. Transparency, communication, and that's been an issue with most families around the world. It's not a fact that they intentionally don't want to communicate and to the family, but families are not good at that, not good at the communication, and that becomes a problem. Conflict management is another issue, and we'll talk more about that later. What I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes is the business growth agenda, which is something that a lot of families are now looking at, mainly because of this. So, what does this chart show you? So in summary, right, the family businesses in the Middle East are much larger in numbers compared to the Western families. So an average Western family will have 2 kids, 3 kids. A family in the GCC, depending on the dynamics of the family, can be a lot more. So you can imagine if a founder has 3 wives, you got 3 branches, you got 4 or 5 kids from each branch, and all of a sudden the second generation is a big number. And the third generation is even going to be larger than that. So what's the issue here? The issue here is that consultants have done an exercise, and they're saying that if family businesses do not grow by 12 to 15% per annum, the future family members, future family shareholders are not going to have the same lifestyle as the current family members, because the pie is not big enough. You know, if you've got a lot of family members and the business is not growing, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that the families are not going to have a lot of money. So they're very focused now, the families here, in terms of addressing the business agenda, right? So they're doing, what are they doing about it? They're professionalizing their boards. You know, the business landscape is getting very complicated. So what they're doing is they're putting in board directors who've got experience in commerce, in the industry that they're in finance, etc., to make sure that they can navigate themselves and you know, ensure that there is growth. The Chamber is doing a lot of work on entrepreneurship with the next generation, and that's quite important as well. You know, so the next generation entrepreneurship will then hopefully increase the, you know, accelerate the business growth in terms of these families. Okay, so look, so what are the issues? Now, as I said to you, there's been an uptick in the level of conflicts, right? We all know that. There's been too many conflicts around. You know, as I said, the governments are concerned about it. But what are the issues that cause conflict? So the one that I talked about is around the future strategy and direction. And this is quite important. Let me just give you a quick experience that I've had in a family. So there was this family in Saudi. You know, I think they had about 9 members in this family, and they wanted a governance framework. So they've asked PwC to come and help them with this, which we said we would. Now, what we normally do is before we start our work, we interview family members on a one-to-one basis. They're private and confidential meetings. So when we interviewed this family members, one of the family member who I interviewed said to me, "Amin, I'm the black sheep." So I said, "Oh, okay. So tell me more. You know, why do you think you're a black sheep?" He said, "Well, let me explain what I mean." He said, "Every time the family talks about investing or talks about decreasing dividends, I vote against it. And the reason why I do that is because I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have any kids. I want to enjoy my life. I want to travel. I want to go fishing and farming and things like that. And, you know, the family keeps talking about, you know, investing in this, investing in that, you know, opening offices in Morocco and things like that, and reducing the level of dividends. I don't want that." And he said to me, "Look, it's for this reason. I've never mentioned this to the family, but I'm totally misaligned. This is the alignment issue with the family, and I want you to go and say to them that there is an issue." So anyway, I cut a long story short, I went to the family and said, "Look, we have an issue here with one of your family members. He wants to leave." And of course, the family was shocked. You know, how, you know, I'm sure we can resolve this. Blah blah blah. Anyway, again, cut a long story short, they tried to convince them, failed, and then we had to stop doing what we were doing, and the family had to then facilitate the exit for this particular family member. And of course, it wasn't easy because there was no rules. There were no exit rules. There were no valuation rules. So there's a lot of toing and froing and all of that kind of thing. And I think in the end they had to pay him a premium for him to go. But anyways, but once he left, it was actually quite amicable in the end, although lots of discussions. But he left. Family were happy because the remaining family member were kind of aligned with each other, and they then got together and got us to do the exercise for them going forward in terms of formalizing their relationships with each other. And this other gentleman left, got paid, and he did his own thing. So so strategy, future strategy is extremely important, and it takes a lot of time. Takes a lot of time to get this right, but it's really worth it, because if you have misaligned shareholders, it may not be an issue today, but it certainly will be an issue in the future. Okay, So family employment, I mean, I talked about this. There are several models. We don't have time to go through all of this, but you know, the direction of travel, and I can tell you this, especially in some of the large families in Saudi, they have been saying to me, right, and I can mention names actually because it's not a secret. This family in Saudi is the Subay family. Have you heard of them? Al Subay. So in the case of Al Subay, I mean, I know the family quite well. They have got a rule in their protocols that none of the family members will work in the business on an operational basis, that they will sit on boards of the holding company and of the subsidiary company, and there'll be an entrepreneurial fund for the next generation and all of that kind of thing. And the reason why that they put this in is because when they had family members working in the business, the focus was completely taken away. Most of the time was spent in resolving issues of employment between family members. And guess what happened? 3 years after they put this thing in, their profits tripled. Because, you know, family were spending more time on the boards on strategic issues and with the family, and the business was run by professional non-family managers. And, you know, that worked for them. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. Every family is different, right? Every family is different. What works for one family may not work for another, but the direction of travel is certainly that these days. Why do conflicts occur? I've written a paper on conflicts, and I can send it to you if you're interested. But you know, most of the conflicts occur because there's a perception in somebody's mind that he or she is being unfairly treated. It could be right, it could be wrong. It's a perception, you know. And I'll tell you what happens, and this is mostly caused due to lack of transparency, lack of communication and all of that kind of thing. And what happens is, in this part of the world, the in-laws, and I think it happens in other parts of the world as well, but in-laws play a huge role. They add fuel to the fire, because they say things like, you know what, your brother travels first class, he's got a flat in France, right, and he drives a Ferrari. What do you have? You know, so there's all these kind of things going on, right? Which causes this. You know, enough of that, because I can go on forever. A lack of transparency and communication I spoke about. Family members actively involved in the business, not consulting the wider family. So this is a phenomenon between active and passive. Yeah? If you're an active family member, i.e. you work in the family business, you know what's going on. You come to work, you hire people, you fire people, you sign contracts, all of that kind of thing. So you're engaged. But what happens to those passive family shareholders? They're not engaged in the business. They don't know what's going on. And you know what? Nobody bothers to tell them what's going on. and that divergence in knowledge causes conflicts in family members. And it's not, again, it's not rocket science. It's all about communication, which families are not very good at. You know, I've mentioned the wealth creation issue, right? This is extremely important. It's the balance between wealth creation and liquidity. You can't have both, right? You can't have a company increasing shareholder value and a company paying 80% of the profits as dividends. I mean, you know, it doesn't work that way, right? So you've got to balance the requirements of the family and requirements of the business. And this is a huge issue in the GCC that causes a lot of conflict. Why? Because a lot of the family shareholders depend on dividends to fund their lifestyle. And if you start reducing dividends, it creates a problem. So the whole issue around this dividend policy is massive. Shareholders' exits from business and valuation of shares, I kind of talked about that. And you know, a lot of families don't have any rules around that, and they say to me, you know, it's okay, you know, if, you know, we're not going to be unfair, you know. And yet, when somebody says, I want to leave, and he says, my shares are worth this much, the family goes, no, your shares are worth this much, you know. And, you know, a few minutes ago, they say, we'll be fair. And, you know, so, and in many cases, families don't have an exit mechanism. They're stuck. So when a family is stuck, it's like you're being put in jail and somebody locks the door and throws the key away. So one day that poor family member who's in jail will find the key, but there'll be blood on the floor. You know, so why go through all these issues? You know, it's very simple. Have an exit mechanism and have a valuation policy. Choosing the future leaders I talked about. Right, so let me just quickly go through this. This is the impact that conflicts can have on family marriages. Now again, you know, I've seen so much of this. You know, conflicts in family businesses destroy shareholder value. You know, I've been in meetings where family members who are worth billions argue about things and do not want to compromise because of egos. You know, huge egos. And, you know, family value gets destroyed as a result. Don't care, you know. So that's what happens. Obviously, impact on family harmony and relationships, that's quite important because, you know, the family ends up, if they're in conflict, not just leaving the family business, but cutting all ties with the family. And that's quite sad, right? And finally, you know, I mean, you must have heard about this. A lot of the conflicts end up in courts and assets get frozen as a result. And this is what happens, and the businesses get impacted. So conflicts in family businesses can be quite difficult and quite damaging as well to the future of the family businesses. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but I can tell you that the regional governments are extremely concerned. So we have advised we've advised the governments in Saudi Arabia, we've advised Omani government, and we've advised the UAE government as well, in terms of sustainability of family businesses and what is it that the government can do to address this issue. And as you know, in Dubai, the families have, the government have intervened in many of the conflicts that families have had, and they've created judicial committees to try and resolve these family issues. I've been involved in 3 of these judicial committees, advising them in terms of what is it that they can do. It's not easy, it's very, very difficult. Because, you know, everything is left till it's too late. You know, if you want to organize a family, you need to do it when the family are in a reasonable, harmonious state. When the family is in conflict, it's very difficult. Because if you say day, I'm going to say night. You know, I'm not going to agree with you because of these, you know, ego issues. So I think, Suresh, you talked about the Federal Decree number 37. This is actually a step in the right direction because the Federal Law number 37 creates, you know, quite a few robust kind of laws, and one of the 3 or 4 things that the law addresses that are quite important. One is the ability for family businesses to legalize their agreements. In the past, it was very difficult. You know, you had the Articles of Association, as Adib said, they were prepared in 1970s, or 2 pages long. It didn't have any clarity, right? So now the family businesses can actually legalize it. The other thing that's really important is the classes of shares. You know, in the past, you have only one class of share, which is voting. And now, under this law, you can have voting and non-voting shares, right? And guess who gets the non-voting shares? That in-law who's an outlaw. And also, you know, this law talks about exit mechanisms and valuations, and has a good process for addressing conflicts in families. So this law is good, and as Suresh talked about it, there's a registry, and you have to register in this registry to be part of this. It's early days yet, but you know, we're moving in the right direction. Adib talked about the Dubai Center for Family Business. I'm not going to talk about that. The DIC Wealth Center is another very important you know, forum and that's mainly to attract foreign family offices. And Suresh and I were talking earlier, there's a huge amount of families that have actually come into Dubai and the UAE. In fact, I was talking to Hilal Al-Murray a few months ago, and he said to me that 3,000 family businesses have gotten into the UAE in the last 3 years. Incredible number. And then Sheikh Maktoum recently, about less than a year ago, created the Family Business and Family Ownership Dispute Settlement Committee. This is a very important committee, by the way, because what it does, because previously what the main criticisms of these committees that were set up were that it lacked the competent people around these committees, you know, or people who were overly busy. They just didn't have time to address these things. So now what the idea is to have qualified people within these committees, qualified legal, qualified commercial, qualified financial people to be part of these committees and to be able to address this address the conflicts without impacting the day-to-day running of the business. And that's the idea. Saudi have done something similar, you know, so I'm not going to go through it, but Saudis are quite ahead of the game, in fact. They're doing a lot now in terms of family business sustainability. So my last slide, I promise. So what do you think the families should be doing to become effective in terms of governance? So the first thing I think is, you know, the 3 pillars of the family business: the family, the business, and the ownership. You need to harmonize these 3 circles. And what do you mean by that? Increase, you know, bring in fairness, create rules, make sure that there's proper communication and transparency. Families should apply a proper system of governance. This is about, you know, we're a family of 5 today or 7 today. In the next generation, 25 years, we're going to be 30 or 40. What are we going to do? How are we going to make decisions? You know, how are we going to accept the rule of majority? You know, what are we going to do about family employment? What are we going to do with family members who want to leave? You know, the family is getting bigger and bigger. How are we going to minimize conflicts? So that needs to be done. Strengthen the role of the board. And as I said to you, this is becoming more and more important. A lot of families are putting in independent directors to strengthen the board. It was an issue in the past. You know, 10 years ago, if I spoke to a family member about independent board directors, the first thing I would get is, oh no, you know, we don't want any strangers in our board because they're going to take confidential information and share it with our competitors. So, but things are changing. Things are changing. Families are getting more sophisticated, and you know, this is being addressed. Clarify decision-making process. So there's a huge confusion about the role of the owner, the role of the director, and the role of management. You know. And it's about really educating the families that these are different things. You have to wear different hats if you're an owner, and different hats when you're a manager, because as a manager you're accountable. There's accountability, right? It doesn't matter if you're an owner, but if you're managing the construction business, you need to be accountable to the board about the performance of that construction business. So this is a kind of a journey. It takes a while for families, some of the families, to kind of get to grips with it. What else? Engage and involve the next generation early. So this is, and I've got a story for this. And some of you might have heard of it. But one of the things that I always say to families is, let go at an early age. Don't leave it too late. You know, get your next generation family members involved at an early stage. I think, Mohan, you did the right thing in your family to involve your kids. You're going to speak about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I have a story. You know, there's this family, father and son, right? Father started the business. He was doing really well, and his son then graduated, and he got him to come to the business. And the son took the business to another level, made a lot of money for him. And father was really happy, you know, that he was doing so well. And one day, the father calls his son into his office and says, you know, it's my birthday today. You know, the son said, of course, yeah, I mean, I wished you in the morning and, you know, I gave you a present as well. Did I do anything wrong? Kind of. And the father says, no, 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 thank you very much. But I need to talk to you about something very important. So the son goes, what is it? He says, listen, I'm 85 today, okay? And I've been working in this business for a long, long time. And you've helped me grow this business. And I'm so grateful because you've really taken it to the next level and you've made a lot of money as a result. We've made a lot of money as a result. And the son said, yeah, okay. And he said, listen, I'm going to retire now. I'm 85. I'd like to retire and I'd like you to take over as the CEO. So the son looks up and looks down and says, look, I'm really grateful. I'm really flattered by what you've just said, but I'm 55 and I'm looking at retiring myself. So don't assume that family members are going to just take over, you know, because, you know, the young generation have their own ideas, right? So don't be too late in letting go, you know. And I think, you know, I mean, the last thing I want to say here is fairness is extremely important, right? It's like the key ingredient for, you know, getting the family together, you know, gluing the family together is being fair with each other. You know, they say to succeed in business, but to fail the family is to fail. I'll repeat that again. To succeed in business, but to fail the family is to fail. You can make a lot of money, but if you destroy your family or if your family are not happy, what have you really achieved, right? And therefore, my last words on this is that the family businesses in the GCC are going to remain the backbone of the economy. They will remain the backbone of the economy. However, they need to move along with the times. They need to start doing the sort of things that we've been talking about. Because if they don't, they will fragment and dilute as the family moves into the next generation. Thank you.
The chartered accountants in the forum will second me. Was it not an internal audit report? It started from the strengths, what the potential the family businesses have, how the economy is driven, and then it came to all the types of the challenges. It didn't leave any particular, any cell of the biological report. It covered, I think, every area, every aspect, and ultimately addressed that we in the region, federal law is ready, is introduced, so that the mechanism is ready. Dubai Chambers is having the bank of knowledge ready, geared up to spread the knowledge, to get the talent pool. And if you get into conflict, DIFC courts are there, so you can solve that. And here, Mr. Amin, if you want, the case studies, that every table you will get hundreds of case studies in family business. How was the food? And I'm just asking, how was the food just starting of the function? Thank you. So to take it forward, the spicy and the sweet discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Narayanan to introduce the panel and to have the discussion forward. And congratulations, Narayan, for being convener of this forum.
Her Excellency Mahal Gargavi, a distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, once again, warm welcome to this inaugural session of the Family Business and the Wealth Management Forum. Dr. Sahitya has very eloquently introduced a lot of our guests and panelists today. And what we intend to do is to add a little bit more content, maybe certain specific instances of how the families are dealing with different aspects in this market, and also to take away a few inputs as to what strategically we can take forward. At the onset, I'm honored and I express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Suresh Kumar and IBPC, who have given me this opportunity to use a small bit of my expertise to drive this initiative for IBPC. And the intention is to see whether I can contribute in some way to bridge that gap for families and to see how we can take this initiative forward. Given the paucity of time, I would, without undue delay, would like to invite our panelists for today. Mr. Suresh Kumar, who would be the moderator for this particular panel today, and he will be moderating this with our distinguished experts and two very eminent family members. First of all, let me introduce and welcome Mr. Mohan Walrani to the stage. Mr. Mohan Walrani is the Governor Emeritus for IBPC. He's also the founding senior vice chairman of Al-Shirawi Group. He's also the chairman of Arcadia Foundation, Arcadia Education. He has been an entrepreneur, has a very strong vision, has built a very huge business in this context. In 1971, he partnered with a local group to form the Al-Shirawi Group, which has become one of the largest conglomerates in the UAE today. It spans across different industries from printing and packaging, electronics, logistics, oil and gas, and engineering services. His passion for education has led him, His passion for education has led him to establish Arcadia, a company that provides education in the UAE, and he plans to build many more schools that provide high-quality British curriculum education to the children within the UAE. He also serves as a member of the Board of Trustees, as well as the ex-chairman of the Indian High School, the largest non-profit school in the UAE. Welcome, sir. Next on our panel was Mr. Abdullah Ajmal, who is, please, Mr. Abdullah Ajmal, who is the visionary CEO of Ajmal Group. He is the first from the third generation to lead the family's farm to fragrance legacy, which was established way back in 1971. With more than 2 decades of experience, Mr. Abdullah has driven Ajmal Perfume's growth in over 300 retail stores and 1,000 dealerships across 50 countries, solidifying its global presence. Under his leadership, Mr. Ajmal has collaborated with master perfumers like Dominic Ropian and Alberto Morelos, diversifying its consumer segments and expanding into newer markets, including North America and also Europe. Recognized as a very transformative leader, Mr. Abdullah has appeared on Arabian Business 100 Most Powerful Indians in the Gulf and Forbes Middle East Top 100 Business list as well, cementing his status as the change maker in the industry. Welcome, sir. Now I humbly request Mr. Amin Nasir on the stage. Amin Nasir. Mr. Suresh Kumar and Mr. Adib. Without undue delay, I will just hand over the stage to Mr. Suresh Kumar, who will take this forward from here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I think a lot has been said about all of us, but let me add a few more important points in that direction, starting with Mr. Mohan Walrani. He just recently, just a few days back, celebrated 84 years birthday, 84th birthday. Most importantly, I mean, he has a habit of celebrating the birthday by adopting a school for Dubai Cares more recently. So the 4th school that you have adopted this year. And he also does a lot of work for Sheikh Rashid school as well, pediatric school. So tremendous. I compliment you, Mohan, on these excellent initiatives. He's a doyen of the business community. We have known not just recently, but for a number of years, number of decades, in fact. And what was fascinating was that in this context of family businesses, and he was a pioneer in that respect of setting up a family office. And there's an excellent article written or an interview given by his son Sumit Walrani to, interestingly, a PwC Global Family Business Survey. And there are some amazing insights. All of you, I urge you to Google and read that particular interview between PwC advisor and Sumit. And Sumit is regrettably not being able to be here. I'd invited him. But I'd like to pick up on that, Mohan. What interestingly Sumit said was that you're one of the very few families which are, from a UAE national and an Indian family. It's a joint family arrangement set up, which is quite unique. There aren't very many of them. I mean, there have been in the past many UAE partners, but they were, I would call them sham LLCs and the like. There were side arrangements and the like. So this is one of the truly successful family business that jointly owned by two leading business families that have grown from trading and contracting in the 70s and the 60s to a very well diversified conglomerate into manufacturing. And I remember Mohan telling me once, in trading, you make money. In manufacturing, you mint money, excepting that you have to have the time to be able to do that. And a second feature, which, another leading Emirati person, I wouldn't want to name him here, said to me, and which, in a sense, Mohan symbolizes. He told me in a different context, he says, if you buy a dog, don't bark yourself. By that, what I mean is, what you mentioned, saying that if you bring a first-class CEO, don't try to manage him. Supervise him by all means, govern him, oversee him, but don't manage him. That's something Mohan did uniquely. He and Mr. Abdullah Al-Sharawi both handed it over to the next generation and became mentors in their own businesses. And I think that's a tremendous, and all of this, Adib, and I hope I call your name correctly. Apologies for the misspelling. Long before this subject became, important and fashionable, Mohan had walked the talk, in a manner of speaking. He and his partner, Mr. Abdullah Al-Sharawi. So they straddle now. I think they are into the third generation. And it's important that they have what Sumit describes as a family protocol, which I think again is a precursor to the governance model, the governance code, and the like. And so I think this is what interestingly we thought we should allow Mr. Mohan Valrani to speak about this. I think this is a tremendous piece of advice that he can give us all. Mohan.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. Very generous. Thank you. It all started with a process and started sometime in 2006, 2007 with PwC. Amin Nasser was a very young man, young kid that time. And we started setting the protocol way back in 2007. So I announced my, not retirement, I announced my intentions to hand over in 2007. So in 2008 was the crisis of Lehman Brothers. I don't know whether all of you were, maybe all of you were kids. 2008 was a crisis.
They're actually older than they look.
Yeah.
Many of them.
So there was a crisis. I was in London. I remember the date, 2007. I had announced my intention, so I was relaxing my holiday. And 2008 September, I was sitting with HSBC, and suddenly the news came that Lehman Brothers has gone bust. Oh, so what are going to be the repercussions? Crisis. So the CEO of HSBC told me, Mohan, this is not the beginning, this is just the beginning of the end. So go and do what you have to do. Fine, I came back, I phoned the board, and in 2008, October, I got my job back. So it's a headache, you come and manage. Okay, yes. Fine. But in 2010, by the end of 2009, everything was back to normal, everything was fine. And I took a back seat again. But what I want to really point out, that the family offices, the concept of family office or family businesses in the Gulf, in the Middle East, and maybe even India, is in a very primitive stage. Very primitive stage. We are at, on a scale of 1:10, maybe we are at 2. If you, I just scribbled some notes. There are 15 to 20,000 family offices all over the world. The definition of a viable family office is minimum $250 million in assets. And they control $10 trillion. $10 trillion. The hedge funds control $7 trillion only. Now, in the next 20 years, this is something you all should note of. In the next 20 years, $84 trillion, there's going to be a transfer of wealth from the baby boomers to the new generation, to the second generation, to the forthcoming generation. So in US, the family office concept is pretty advanced. It started in 1980 with the Rockefeller Foundation. And the concept of family offices tried to create disruption for the hedge funds, because hedge funds were accountable to the analysts, etc. So the family offices came in and created a disturbance for the hedge funds. Private equity created disturbance for the hedge funds, right? Because they came in with a formula of 2 and 20, 2% initially, and then 20% on the upside. Then suddenly the family offices have come in and they are creating a disruption for the private equity, because family offices have got patient capital. They can wait for 20, 25 years. So this is the advantage of family office. So family office is going to really be they are going to control the markets. They are going to control almost everything in business, the big family offices. Having said that, I mean, not the 3,000 family offices, which I think Adib, you mentioned, yes. 3,000 family offices. Why have they come to Dubai? Why have they come to UAE? Because simply, it is the tax haven. As simple as that. And the lifestyle is very good. So the family offices which have come here are operating out of Dubai, but they have not necessarily bought in the assets. This is something to make note of. Don't be just happy that they have 3,000 people have come, so what? No big deal. So they have come here because this is a tax haven. And this concept of tax haven, most of the countries are copying very fast, including European countries. So many billionaires have gone to Italy. They have been given the same facility to Singapore, etc. Even as late as Mukesh Ambani, he opened his family office in Singapore. So there is competition there. Let's not this thing. Then moving, what is the advantage? Why has Al-Sharawi Group succeeded in moving right from 2007, when the initial constitution we were guided by PwC. Amin was part of it. That's why I don't forget his name. I don't make a mistake, you know. So he was part of it. And since then, there is no textbook solution to your problem. Sorry, I'm not going against all the presentations, but these presentations don't help. You have to find your own solution. It's a process. You have to sit down, sit across the table, and the mentor, the patriarch of the family, has to be part of the process. So this process started in 2007, and I've never attended a board meeting after 2007, but I've been keeping in touch. I've been getting the minutes. I know what's going on. And this process has started till I was my 80th birthday. On my 80th birthday, I'd given up authority, but on my 80th birthday, I gave up my titles. I said, I don't want to be the senior vice chairman or the managing director. I want to remove my titles. But the very good of the second of the coming generation, they said, yes, okay, fine, but we are not going to let you off the hook. So they said, okay, you be the mentor. So I got a job as a mentor, you see. But being a mentor is a bigger responsibility. So this is the process. This is the process which every family office has to follow. You cannot do it overnight. There will be problems, there will be ups, there will be downs. The 2008 crisis, then the COVID crisis. I got my job back about 50%. Maybe 50, Naveen, 50 or 90 or 100?
I can say 75%.
75%. I got my job back.
Because for any problem, we will go to Boston.
Yeah. So, but it was interesting, and I hate to say that because during COVID, many people suffer. But the COVID crisis was one of our best periods as far as business is concerned. Don't ask me the details. So every crisis, because we had gone through so many crises, so we were ready, we were prepared for it. I mean, we didn't have to go to the banks to delay our payments or borrow more. We had a strong balance sheet. So that is the key. And what else? Am I talking too much?
No. Continue.
Yeah. Somebody said that 60% of the GDP of UAE or is controlled by the family offices. Am I right? Yeah. Now, it's not true. It's not correct. I can challenge this figure. 60% of the GDP is controlled by single family offices, which are basically joint families. When somebody said the Hindu undivided family is basically a single family office, that's it. The first generation goes and boom, majority of the joint families, they collapse. So the family offices collapse after the first generation. So there's nothing like family office. Family offices do not control 60%. Families, they control, not the family offices. Am I right? Yeah, okay. So we have to change. We have to realize that family offices are not controlling 60% of GDP. Only families are controlling. Maybe the Al-Sharawi family, the Al-Futtaim family, the Al-Ghurair family, yes, but not necessarily family offices. They are just getting into this concept. They're just getting into this concept of family office. Now, family office has got many responsibilities apart from wealth growth. Oh, that is understood. You have to grow your wealth. But the new phenomena is that family offices are also focusing a lot on philanthropy. You take Warren Buffett, you take Bill Gates, you take Azim Premji in India. They have created foundations, and philanthropy is one of the key. You see, during their lifetime, they have created foundation and given up majority of their wealth to a foundation. Now, when even philanthropy has changed in the way that philanthropy is not just giving money out of your pocket. These people have created ventures. They have given money to venture capital who not only create wealth, but their job is to create wealth and use it for philanthropy. The example is Bill Gates. Bill Gates during COVID, he did more for the solution to the problem than even the US government. But that doesn't mean he lost money. Doesn't mean his company lost money. But he had the formula, he gave it to this thing, and the profits went into the kitty, went into a foundation which is supposed to be used for philanthropy, not to be used for him or his kids. So family offices have a different concept, including family offices. Say, take my example. Family office also they have to cater to the requirements, the personal requirements, family requirements of the various members. If if my wife has a problem with maintenance and repair, she doesn't have to phone me. There is a family office, and it attends to all these solutions. So if there are 8 families and they have kids, suppose there are 20 families, they don't have to bother. They know whom to phone. This is a very simple example. This is a small thing. Travel, visas. So the role of the family office is expanding. Healthcare. In the good old days, joint family, even now joint family used to take care. If somebody is sick, they'll say, okay, this is the family. But no, now this, even responsibility is being handed over to the family office. Travel, education. Education of the future generation, how to guide them, how to help them, right from the moment they are born and they go to their foundation stage, till they go to the university, until they come back, and then they join the business. So this is also one of the responsibilities of family office, not necessarily an individual. Then the responsibility of the mentor or the patriarch. When the second generation comes in after finishing their masters or MBA and all that, my first question was to all the people, starting from Muhammad al-Shirawi to Hisham to Sumit, Naveen, Kabir, how long will it take you to forget what you have learned and start learning what you have to do? As simple as that. They used to be shocked by a statement. Do I have to forget what I have learned? I said, you have to forget what you have done and start learning what you have to do. So it is very important. It's the responsibility of the patriarch, the mentor, to make sure that there is a process. And process cannot be short-term. It cannot be overnight. I think I'll stop.
No, thank you, Mohan. You will not stop. You will pause for the moment.
Yeah.
And then we will throw it open to the floor.
Okay.
To ask some questions. But in the meanwhile, first of all, thank you. I think you have this great habit of being very candid. So while you let go on the family business side, you have had a nice go at our advisors. Sure.
30 seconds. The problem, the big problem here, which we have overcome in the Al-Shirawi group, is the Sharia law. There is always a way, a method of overcoming this, and gender equality. The tradition, Asian tradition, is that my son should get more than my daughter. That thinking has to change. So gender equality is a problem. But there is a method, a way of getting around it, if the patriarch wants to be fair. Thank you.
No, I think it's a very interesting inflection point you mentioned about gender equality. Abdullah, First of all, thank you for being with us today. But one of the conversations I had when I invited Abdullah is, he said, not only me, you should also invite my cousin, Mariam. And he says it's important to get gender diversity, gender perspectives, etc. I think it's tremendous. And I think while we lack gender diversity across the panel today, this is the inaugural event of the forum, so you will have multiple forums, and I think we will make sure that we have, to start with, Mariam on the panel, maybe at a future date. But interesting also in a sense that today we have on the one hand an 84-year-old patriarch, and I will not reveal Abdullah's age, but he's a third generation entrepreneur in his family. He's the third generation. The Ajmal Group is a very well-known group to many of you, and I'm sure. But it's always interesting to hear from Abdullah's own words. And there is a very interesting video, an interview of his, which I encourage all of you to, when you go back, listen to it. Abdullah talks about how his grandfather or his great-grandfather started the business, and they are originally from Sylhet, but they moved to Assam, and then from Assam, I think I would rather leave it to Abdullah to tell about that early part of it, which I thought was very fascinating. They latched on to the fact that Assam uniquely, Assam and the Northeast, if I'm correct, has this agar wood, and from which the oud is extracted, and it's a fascinating story for all of you to listen. And how, starting on a modest scale, I think your grandfather planted 10 million trees?
He started with a very
small number, yeah.
That is now grown.
Now grown to 10 million trees there. So it's there are very, very interesting insights that you learn about the origin of Ajmal family. He was Mr. Ajmal Ali, the late Haji Ajmal Ali. And then came the next generation, which is Abdullah's father and his brothers.
Yes, my uncles.
Yes, your uncles. And it was interesting to hear from him that he was chosen by actually one of his younger cousins in a conversation when they were discussing, saying that we must now have younger leadership. And Abdullah didn't know that younger leadership discussion was about him. Until the next day, it was discovered, much to his, I think, surprise, and certainly much to the delight of many of the other family members, that they made him the CEO. But he started as a management trainee and worked his way up, manager to regional manager, general manager, and so on. So he's grown fascinatingly through the ranks of his own family business, expanded family business. And so, Abdullah, do tell us a little bit of that story. Give us a little bit of flavor of how you came to set up as well, more recently in the last 2 years, the family office concept.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thanks, Surajji, for inviting me, and IBPC for putting us on this panel. And I'm really, really honored that I'm actually sharing this podium with somebody like you. So I don't know if you know this, but the first villas that my parents stayed in with my uncles were owned by Al-Shirawis.
Oh.
Yes. And we have done business together as well. In one of your companies.
I mean everybody knows that.
They know it, but they just don't buy it. It's a big difference. So I'll just sort of take you through a little bit of our journey. Our journey started in Assam, as Sir has mentioned, that our family originally from, well, at that time it was not Bangladesh, but I'm talking, I think like 6 generations ago when they had moved to what is today Assam, India. And yes, our business started from the commodity called oud, It's nowadays you hear oud everywhere, but the connoisseurs of oud are the people of the GCC, and that's where the journey started. He was very, very nice about, modest about saying, you know, that we came from modest beginnings. Modest is just a new age way of saying poor. So, alhamdulillah, I'm very proud to say that, you know, we came from those kind of beginnings. And much like, sir, my patriarchs, my grandfather, my father and uncles have always been visionaries. So they've always thought way ahead. Things like sustainability, when people didn't even talk about things. I mean, now we know sustainability. My grandfather started the concept in 1979. Women empowerment in a tiny, tiny little village where the nearest hospital was maybe 30 kilometers away and there was no cars, only bullock carts, 40% mortality rate of children at birth. So my grandfather already planned, when he didn't have 10,000 rupees earnings of the entire year, which at the time was a decent amount of money, he said, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a hospital which will focus more on women childbirth. Okay, and today, of course, our CSR program is, alhamdulillah, very, very vast. We're very proud to do that. But this is, again, that has been, today we see it as very progressive. Women and families actually having a huge impact on the business, even if they don't actually participate in the business. My grandmother was a huge supporter, and the way, today I would say if my grandfather was able to build what he did was also because of the support of my grandmother. I mean, a funny anecdote. So my great-grandfather, they were all farmers originally. Great-grandfather thought you can't do business because to do business you had to cheat people. So he found out that granddad is going to be traveling to Bombay at the time, and he's going to take the train, I don't know, Wednesday or what have you. So when he went in, he locked all the doors, you know. Tiny little house anyway, it was a clay mud house, and he locked the door. He said, if you can't go, then you can't go to Bombay. So Dadi actually found a way to actually unlock one of the windows where my grandfather actually escaped and went to the station. Just his bloody bad luck, the train never arrived. But I think my great-grandfather realized that, look, this is going to happen, okay? But the difference is that at their level, the idea was that he had to feed 7, 8 mouths, I mean, my grandmother and 7 of his kids. It was sustainability. When he then moved the entire family to Bombay, it became growth. But would my grandfather, had he been alive, God bless his soul, think that his name would become a brand, alhamdulillah, recognized in many parts of the world? No, I don't even think he would know what a brand is. In fact, in 1960 something, when trademarks were being implemented by the Indian government, this young kid from an art school came with this drawing and said, sir, you need to register what they called a monogram in those days. And my grandfather has zero sense of humor and negative patience. He threw him out of the office, and lo and behold, 2 days later, there was an announcement in the paper that you need to put a trademark. And that's how our logo actually came about. So in our family, many of the things, a bit like my position as CEO, has happened, really the succession has been unplanned. But there has been methodology in a bit like the vague things that actually transpired. So as Suryaji was saying, my position 2 years ago, November actually, board meeting was happening, agenda is going on. In the middle, lunchtime, before that or prayer time, one of my cousins, much younger, he said, you know what, I just want to say something. And there is a person in the company. He's put in a lot of effort. He's put in, so to begin with, I'm 51. He didn't want to tell you guys, but I'm 51. So I've been in the company 26 years. I'll be 27 inshallah in September. So he actually said, you know, this person has been in the company long, done a lot for the organization, but he's never been given the due. So I actually thought that there are two individuals in the company who've been with us for about 40 years, every department, not just loyal, contributed a lot. I thought it would have been one of them. And I was surprised, I was shocked when he said it's Abdullah Bhai. So anyway, a bit like Mohanji, my father has been talking about stepping down for like 5 years. And not because he wants to retire, he just wants to set that example. And he wants the third generation to come on board as well. Our structure is very different. Again, talking about, and I know I'm going all over the place, but you know, you left it so open, I don't know what to talk about. We have been involved in family governance for a very long time. Alhamdulillah, again, it was because there was a visionary agreement between the brothers. So as it happened, funnily enough, I went to IMD in 2001. And somebody had mentioned, at that time, family business courses was only IMD and Harvard. Now, I wouldn't go all the way to Harvard. So IMD, Switzerland sounded much better. I attended that, came back, did a presentation to the board, and another funny anecdote. So I mentioned we need to have board members. We need to have an external board. So you know what they said to me? One of my uncles had dramatic, tears in his eyes. I have to say this in Hindi first. So forgive me if you don't understand. He said, "Bachcho ko humne padhne bheja, ye humko naukri karayenge." We send our kids to study abroad, and then they come back and they want us to get employment. So till today, I can't explain to them that, listen, you can fire the board. So anyway, I gave up on that idea. So I'm just waiting for them, like the ex-Saudi royal family, to move on. So the cousins are there, and then they understand. But the difference today, and I'm extremely blessed that our family, every aspect that you talked about, I mean, we've been through. One of our uncles parted ways. It took 5.5 years. It was an extremely difficult process, but today we are still family, alhamdulillah, which normally doesn't happen. I remember this course I went to, who was it? It was Professor Ward, who wrote the book on family business, John Ward. He said, listen, the fact of it, the problem with family businesses is that until the business is there, the family is there. The day the business is broken, the family is broken. So we're very blessed, alhamdulillah, that the family is still intact. We are in the third generation. Other statistics show that 65% of businesses actually break in the third generation. At least till now, I see that the third generation understand the concept of why we are in business. So granddad was there for sustenance. Dad and uncles were there for growth. And for us, it's about wealth generation. So we understand that even if I'm not in the business, I can still enjoy the benefits of what the business can accumulate over a period of time. So they don't, I mean, putting it again, I like to put things a little lightheartedly, they all like the Mont Blancs in their pockets and the Rolexes on their hands. So they understand the concept that, you know what, it doesn't matter. I don't need to be sitting 8 hours in the office and doing what have you. I'd rather have a professional do it. Yeah. So even though we have about 25 odd direct cousins, like ones who are Ajmals, only 8 of us, actually now 7. Yesterday another one actually exited to do his own passion. So only 7 of us are there at various levels. Me being the eldest, I call myself 2.5 generation because I was very fortunate to be with the elder generation. I never worked with my grandfather, but I worked with all the other, my dad and my uncles. And now I'm working with my third generation. and I understand both the sides, so I'm able to actually articulate and in some ways translate the expectations of the elders with the wants of the youngsters as well. So there is a long journey ahead of us. As I said, alhamdulillah, we've been very fortunate. We've actually gone past a lot of the challenges without actually, yes, there has been bumps along the way, but we've managed to get through to them. We did our first family governance mandate in 2004. So the one thing they did do was, after I did the presentation, one of the things they realized was there's a lot of merit to the governance. And a family business to survive should have a governance. And I'm really proud that we probably are one of the few Asian families in 2004 who had a full-fledged governance. At that time, we were not board members. We're still not board members, by the way. Our structure is very, very clear. There are X number of board members, there are X number of shareholders. So there's no problems. You know, if you have a problem in your family, you keep it there. And that's how we created this structure. And we've just, 10 days ago, we've signed the second variation of, I mean, we obviously had to change it because uncle left, new members in the family, a lot of members are now grown up, married, spouses, what are their rights, kids, obviously. So we've put in a lot of clauses in there that actually, eventually just the idea is we need to protect the business. As long as the business is there, the family is there. So, I mean, I don't want to keep carrying on and on about it, but all I can say is, unlike Manji and all who came to this country, put in a lot of effort, really, real hard work, okay? I mean, in those days, water, electricity, everything, right? Today, alhamdulillah, we're living in probably the best country and city in the world with the kind of leadership that we have. So honestly, I can't say that we've really, how should I put it, suffered or put the kind of work that our elders, such as yourself, sir, have put in. But now it is a bigger responsibility for us to do what we need to do. So in my case, for example, it's about how do I sustain the brand. My vision is to make the brand a global brand. We're in 50 countries now. I want to be in 120, inshallah, in the next 5 years. And just to quote, before I end, my father's statement when I took over the, when I joined the business, he said two things. A bit like what you said. He said, unlike you said, whatever you've learned, forget everything. Now you learn what to do. He said to me, you'll never be a businessman until you've lost money. And while losing money, if you lose sleep, then you'll become businessman faster. So, and that happened quite a few times in my case. So that was one thing. And the second thing he said was, he said, we brought this company. He still doesn't use the word brand. I don't think he gets his mind around the concept of brand and the branding and how we will take it. But he supports. They're very, very supportive of it. They give us the room to do what we need to do. They're all mentors. So everything is very, very, very professionalized, if you like, even though it's very family controlled. And so the last thing was, he said, listen, Abdullah, we brought this company from the bullock cart to the BMW. It's now your chance and opportunity to take it from the BMW to the Boeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdullah, for making it so lively and enjoyable. I think these are the interesting insights that come out of, or should come out of a good panel session as this, thanks to both the panelists. But also picking up on what Mohan said earlier, you know, some of the home truths. They come out very clearly in their journeys. I think, for instance, one of the comments that I read in Sumit's interview, again going back to it, is separating the family businesses from the family investments. Very important, and I think the family investments are the families, that particular family's investments, or that particular family member's investments. The family businesses and the wealth it generates, etc., is a separate aspect. So quite a fascinating comment that he made. And I think another comment of letting go is also very important. I know certainly of one large, unfortunately he's no more, family patriarch who till almost a ripe old age of 87 used to sign checks personally. He wouldn't let go. So they say under a big banyan tree nothing grows because the roots are there everywhere. So letting go is very, very important. Coaching and training and bringing up the next generation is very, very important. And Abdullah, one other point on which, listening to you and listening to your video as well is the philanthropy. Mohan, of course, and the Al-Sharawi, business group, Oasis Investments, if I'm correct, the holding company. Philanthropy is, is an important indicator of how the families have evolved. Mohan mentioned about Bill Gates and the Bill Gates Foundation, and in many cases in the US, 50%, 80%, 100% of their wealth, they have given it away to philanthropy. But I also read very interestingly in Ajmal, 10% of the profits is the first charge given to philanthropy and charities, which I think is also very, very important indication of how these family businesses have evolved. And they have not forgotten the good old values of philanthropy, compassion, starting from your great-grandfather's days. So I think that is also a very, very good hallmark. At this stage, I'll pause and see if there is any question from the floor. Let me pass the mic around.
As we go by your prescription, if we corporatize the family, where's the family in the family office anymore? It's a corporate office.
Yeah. So the different kind of structures in a family business. One structure is family-owned, family-controlled, right? The other structure is family-owned, professionally controlled, right? So a family business can still own a family a business. They don't have to actually work on a day-to-day basis. They can corporatize it, they can professionalize it, but still be part of the family business, and the influences is through the board. The vision and values are theirs, and they set very high-level objectives in terms of this is what we want to do, and this is what we expect from the business, and these are the things that we want you to respect. And then, it's a supervision thing. So, it can be controlled by, the business can be run by non-family professionals, but still, supervised by the family through boards and through the ownership mechanism.
Can I add something?
Please.
Yeah. So actually, this is a very interesting question, and thank you for asking. Actually, I think that families can do is utilize the family office to be the bond and encourage family members to get involved. The family office can be the catalyst for the unity and driving the vision for the future for the family as a whole. You can have the family office as the investment vehicle. You can have the family office, as Mr. Mohan said earlier, as the concierge services provider for the family. You can engage the family members through philanthropic activities through the family office as well. So they are united behind a good cause. So they are engaged to take decisions collectively. So when they are part of the business itself, they are able to work together as shareholders and as board members as well.
Thank you, Adib. In fact, this concept is parallel to operating companies and an investment holding company concept. There's a lot of parallel in between the two. So it's not an operating company, it's not a corporate board of an operating company, it is more like the holding company, so to speak. But the family office also brings in the family issues, which are not necessarily that of the particular corporate or even the conglomerate, corporate element level. So we can have a nice discussion. This is actually food for thought.
So
Naveen.
I have a question to Mr. Mohan, but we say MGV. I joined the Al-Shirawi group in 2001, and although MGV said that he has announced in 2007, and Lehman Brothers 15th September 27 collapsed. But I remember from 2001 and maybe before, you are preparing yourself for the second generation, and integration is a process. And that process really worked for the group. And I think the third generation also joined, third generation also joined the group. But what are the challenges the family offices are facing today? Or what challenges do you feel is going to face the family offices going forward?
I think first thing is that as even Amin Nasser and Adib said, there are bound to be differences. Every human being is different. Every family member is different. Everybody is born different. Some people like music, some people like art, some people don't care about money, some people care about money. So the first thing is that the exit route should be very efficient. If you don't want to stay, fine. Fine, it's okay. You know what happened when one of the members in the Al-Shirawi group exited? It took exactly 24 hours to decide. The formula was set. He said, the formula is set. As per the formula, I am entitled to the money, so much money, in a period of say 5 years with interest, and I would like to exit. 24 hours. We said, fine, you are right. You are most welcome to check the books or appoint your auditors. Our auditors are KPMG, as you know. And whatever your questions, he said, I have no questions. I have full trust and confidence. And we said, no, we won't pay you in 5 years. We'll pay you cash on the spot. You see? So it took 24 hours to exit. You should not force anybody to stay. You should not force anybody to leave. If you got a difference of opinion, okay, leave. Formula's there. So as a result, the family office 5-10 years down the line may not look as it is today. There'll be a lot of people coming in, a lot of people going out. That's the way it is going to be. So exit route is very important. Number one. Number two, getting around. Most of the family offices here, what I'm talking about, the family offices which have not come in the last few years, but the family offices which have been generated in UAE, most of the family offices have a problem with the number. Because, as Amin said, the second generation is, say, 20 members, third generation will be 50 members, 60 members. So managing this number, big number, is also a challenge. And then gender equality. Recently I've realized, being here for the last 55 years, I've realized that the female members, I don't want to, I know most of you here are males, but I've become very efficient, are on par. Some of the members are a little ahead. So they want their piece of cake also. So that is also an issue, which we have been able to solve in the Al-Shirawi group, as you know, that some of the members, they don't have male members or female members, but we have been able to solve that issue very amicably and with the acceptance of everybody. So that issue is very important. Gender equality, exit route is very important, and managing the number, the future number.
So you know, I mean, what you talked about exiting of family members as the numbers grow is actually very valid, and there's no shame in family members deciding to leave. In fact, some of the families have every 10, 20 years, and not in the Middle East, but outside the Middle East, they have an exit kind of window, and they offer their family members, because some family members are reluctant to leave because people might think negative of them or whatever, so they have a window whereby they actually offer a premium for family members who want to leave. And these are, I'm talking about 2%, 1%, you know, whatever. And we call this pruning the tree. When you want to prune the tree, when you prune the tree becomes healthier, you know, and therefore, you know, there's no negative things about family members having to leave.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anybody who leaves is still a member of the family.
Yeah, I think the important takeaways are also this exit opportunities or exit plans. The fact that you know, different members of the family and the future generations have different interests, making sure that there is sufficient liquidity that you can earmark so that they can pursue outside the family businesses their own interests, their own businesses, their own entrepreneurial ambitions. So a lot of this, and I'm not trying to make a plug for Amin Nasser here, but a lot of these scenarios can be, you know, pre-planned, addressed. These are the risks, these are the mitigants, you know, this is the approach. So that's what, Ramesh, family office planning is all about, you know, making sure that you anticipate, that you create a protocol that can stand the test of time over a, you know, couple of generations. So that would be the good viability test of how well the family office constitution itself has been drafted and prepared. And it's an evolving one. It's, you can revisit, amend it, and I think the family registry at the Federal Ministry of Economy allows you to refile amended mandates and documentation. So it's not a one-time, one-off exercise.
It's going to be really comprehensive.
It will be, yeah, it will be. It is, yeah, it is,
Yeah.
it is.
And when you start the process, when we started the process in 2006, it's very important to get professional advice.
Yes.
Because the base, they have to give you the base. Okay, this is the base, this is the constitution, now you all decide what you want to do. This is where Amin Nasser came in 2006. I still remember. And we spent quite a few years or months or years.
We spent a couple of years.
Couple of years to give us the base. Once we had the base, then we knew how to fly, you know.
Any other questions?
To Suresh's point, you then, you know, every period in time, maybe 10 years, you review it, like what you did. You had a recent review of your protocols, which we carried out. And because family dynamics change, right? Families change, and therefore some issues that you agreed upon 10, 15 years ago are probably not relevant anymore.
Upgrading all the time. And
Yes.
plus even the laws change, the tax.
Yeah.
There was no tax in UAE, the VAT, the tax, so you have to keep changing.
Yeah, it's an evolving situation. Yes,
Yeah, this is Narayan Murthy. I'm practicing investment banking as well as wealth management. Always family office as a concept may not be always a blessing. In fact, sometimes it may be pain also. For example, if you say the numbers are increasing from 20 to 30, 50, 200, 300, then it amounts to certain unemployment within the family concept as a business. And it is better to pay, it pays better to disintegrate and fragment and make the family members to manage their businesses on their own. Probably they can unlock value much better than remaining in the family and underutilizing the capabilities available within the family. This question is to Ms. Amin.
Family is different, right? You know, I can quote you family businesses with 500 shareholders that are actually, you know, doing extremely well, and they want to be together. You know, it's about understanding the role of the owners and the role of management and how these two then correlate. But as I said, you know, I mean, if the numbers get too high and the management of the business becomes difficult from an ownership perspective, then families, you know, families exit. I mean, the oldest family in Japan is over 500-600 years old, and there's not many family members left because they've all left during the years. They've exited, and the business is still very strong, right? So I think each family is different, first of all, right? I mean, the Kanu family is in their 7th generation, you know, and they're still very strong, right? And they have a lot of family shareholders within that family. So
Tolstoy said, all happy families resemble one another. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. I think a lot of it applies to family businesses around the world. It's going to be 1 minute to 9 o'clock, so we've got a hard stop coming up fairly soon. Any final question or anybody else? Yes, please.
Just a remark here. It's really a pity that in India,
I mean,
there is no corporate or family business which has survived more than 100 years. Only one, that is Tata's. Yeah. That's it.
And what an example the Tatas have been, yeah.
Otherwise, a big country with having so much culture, thousands of years, there's no corporation which has survived more than 100 years.
One corporate, the South Mundapa Group.
Okay, we'll make it, okay, fine.
You're right,
Maybe you're right,
yeah.
We'll make it 2.
Yes, please. Last question.
I'm Vijay Somani. The question is, normally it is said that 3rd or 4th generation start deteriorating their wealth because the 1st and 2nd generation has come up with very hard way. So what are the things you are taking care for going for 3rd or 4th generations, especially 2nd generation in case of Mr. Walnami, and in case of Mr. Abdullah, you are already 3rd generation. So how you got to sustain and continue to grow?
I would like to make reference to a quote, and I'm sure if not everybody, many of you have read it somewhere or the other. The late Sheikh Rashid Al-Arhama said that, you know, a certain generation starts with camels and the next Land Cruisers and the next Mercedes, and then it goes back on to the camels. So hardship is the foundation and the fundamental of actually growing any business for that matter. And that's one of the reasons why I admire people like Mohanji and all, because they really had to, you know, get their hands dirty in everything, which we honestly, we didn't face those kind of issues. We have different issues. Now, the one thing that I can tell you, the one mantra that I believe, and again, my family did it with me as an example, was that and typically Asian families, as soon as the kid, be it the girl or the boy who comes educated, first thing they do, and if anybody's done it, no offense, but you're the director. Okay? Director, and then you've got your office and you're doing what you do. You have absolutely no idea how this works. Again, like you mentioned, you know, now you need to learn what to do, right? So I was, after I did my MBA, I came back and I was an assistant manager doing dealership sales, going around in Dubai, distributing our products, listening to customers, happy, not so happy, abusive at times. But that was the learning. So that was so the family decided, you know what, these are the education slots, okay, because many of our family members are from the Islamic education background. But we found a way to say, okay, you come from this sort of a format and this is where you enter, then this is your, let's say, call it your title, but the job is going to start at the bottom. And I, in my case personally, Mornings were literally sitting and smelling, because this is our bread and butter, with my uncle, God bless his soul. He was my mentor, and he was the only nose in the region at the time. As you know, we call perfumers noses. So he was the nose of the in the region. So in the day, first part of the day was that. Evenings was spending time in the shops, because if you did not interact with the customer, you never learnt. And so that example has, alhamdulillah, continued now. And if I look at the youngest member of the family who's joined in one part of the sales in India, exactly the same. He's going through the same rigmarole. He is doing sales, he's going all over India, meeting dealerships, etc., understanding the problems that we are facing. So the only mantra I believe is, even if things are not tough, make things tough for them.
Uncle was very kind on you. What I did was that as soon as they came in, first 30 days, I sent them to the warehouse.
We had that in the office.
Thank God I didn't work for either the Al-Sharawi group or the Ajmal group. 84 years old, 51 years old, 26, and then you have all of them, you know. So what do? I think we will then ask Mr. Ramesh Mahalingam to give the concluding remarks.
We really witnessed a waltz of experience, expertise, and wisdom this evening. Captivating and fascinating is how I describe it, if I was allowed only 2 words. Yeah, and a very big thank you to all our speakers and the panel, and could you please join me in giving them a big round of applause. There were many takeaways. We learned that the kaleidoscope of family issues and problems are not just there in families where wealth is not a matter, but equally there, or more possibly, in families that are wealthy, that have businesses to run. We learned that we must distinguish between the family-owned businesses and family-operated businesses, and how families should engage in the business of owning and leave the business of operating to hired managers or employees. So many such learnings through the evening, too many for me to keep you back here, but I'd really want to put out a special word of thanks to our invited guests from outside the IBPC forum, and that's Mr. Amin Nasser with, well, Amin, apologies are accrued and thanks are due. Apologies with respect to your name, and thanks with respect to whatever you shared with us. Your case examples were brilliant. We could relate, and now hopefully we'll remember those case examples, especially when you started even dropping names onto the cases. They riveted the examples even more. Equally, no less, Adib Rashid's examples, or rather the initiatives of the chamber, actually when I was listening to him, I couldn't help going, if whatever we think of, the government of Dubai has already thought of and has done something about it for helping us to get ahead with it. Seminar after seminar in IBPC, no matter what the topic, you will find that the government is actually a step or 2 or 3 ahead of us. This is incredible, and we are really, really fortunate to be in a country where the government is really ahead of the people and leading the people right from the front and center. Yeah. So thank you very much for the presentation. And I must say, we are delighted to thank Ms. Maha Al-Girgawi, Her Excellency, for having stayed right through the course of the evening. unless it was an election, of which I've been part, she wouldn't have to stay throughout. And of her own volition, she stayed all the evening. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And please repeat your own performance for the next one. Yeah. And as to our IBPC member sponsor guests, Mr. Mohan Valrani and Mr. Abdullah Ajmal. Mr. Ajmal, I've heard for the very first time, you've actually stolen our hearts with your real life story and your growth from the age of, I think, back calculation is about 25 to 51.
Myself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's about, thereabout. Yeah.
Before that, I was in his warehouse.
The other thing I must add, talking of this, is we had a subject of great gravity. There was a lot of humor, but none of our speakers made light of the matter. Yeah, so great evening, all in all. Mr. Mohan Valrani, of course, we did him injustice by only giving him a few minutes. A life of 84 years cannot, I repeat, cannot be compressed in a space of some 10 or 12 minutes. So, sir, we need to hear you again on a fuller mission next time, and we will invite our invited speakers to be in the audience. And as to Mr. Suresh Kumar, our Chairman Emeritus, what can I say? He is the catalogue of everything good and worthy of knowing. The whole idea of the Family Office and Wealth Forum, he and I have discussed it over years. It's been his original thought, and I'm sure he's the most delighted this evening to see it take shape and come into form in flesh and blood, as they say. So thank you, Suresh ji, for actually giving effect to this after demitting your office from the governance board, which is brilliant. Thank you again. As to our audience, what an audience this evening. Not a distracted soul. I was sitting right in front, but I could tell you there was nobody distracted or chatting. I mean, this is the ideal audience any speaker would want. Yeah, and I think we've all talked up and heard up an appetite. And if I may say this, dinner is served. Yeah, thank you all.